travelers, and welcome to Go See, Do Explore.
Here, we dive deep into the heart of travel, sharing hidden gems, unforgettable experiences, and the stories that make each destination unique.
Whether you're a seasoned traveler or dreaming of your next getaway, you're in the right place to get inspired.
I'm Christopher.
And I'm Ashleigh.
And together, we'll set the course for your next great adventure and discover the stories that make each place unforgettable.
It's time to go, see, and do more. Let's explore. Hello, everybody. We are back with another episode of Go See, Do Explore. When I was editing a few episodes ago was the one where we talked about the places that we want to visit. I realized that we referenced a lot of travel television that gives us inspiration for where we want to go. And so I thought it might be a good idea to mention what our favorite travel television shows are, kind of tell you a little bit about them and why we enjoy them.
Yeah, there are some of these in particular that I'm really excited to talk about.
And we'll make sure to mention how you can watch these shows too. So we won't just
that's your I don't know. So that's for you.
You can see who controls the remote in our house.
Yeah.
So the first one that I want to talk about is Samantha Brown, Places to Love. So Samantha Brown has been in the travel industry, especially on travel television, for a really long time. I believe she was the first ever female host of a travel television show. And she was on the Travel Channel for a long time. Within the last, I don't know however many years, she started her own show that is on PBS. When we saw Samantha Brown at the travel show a couple years ago, she was talking about how moving to PBS allows her to own her own content, whereas when she was on the Travel Channel owned everything. So I think it's cool, and I definitely recommend that you check it out. She's the host, the writer, producer, all that, and it's pretty cool. It's on PBS, so it's a little bit quirky.
Every stop always has that one kind of weird place, but it's still a good show, definitely.
Yeah, and she goes all over the U.S. She goes all over the world, really. We just watched a 2-part episode about Jerusalem that was really cool. It inspired me to go somewhere that I've never really considered visiting before.
Yeah. Also, that show, I think, was one of the central drivers in us going to the Texas Hill Country for the first time.
Oh, for sure. So you can catch Samantha Brown, Places to Love, as I mentioned, on your local PBS station. You can also get it free on the PBS app. And like I said, since she owns it all, it's also free on YouTube.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Definitely. I'll mention the one that I think is my favorite on this list, which is a show called Travel Man, the original with Richard Ayoade. There's another one now with a new host. I'm sure it's fine. I just can't bring myself to watch it because I feel like I'm probably going to be disappointed. Travel Man is this really interesting concept of a show where they basically try to take long weekends places. So most of their trips are like 3 days. What can you do in a city in 3 days? They're primarily European cities because the show is based in the UK. So it's like, where can you go in a relatively short period of time? There are some exceptions to that. There's some special episodes where they go to the US, they go to Dubai, they go to Hong Kong in one episode.
Do they go to Jordan?
Yeah, there's a Christmas episode in Jordan, but by and large, it's like European destinations. It's very funny. Richard Ayoade's whole shtick is basically that he doesn't like traveling.
And he's allergic to everything.
Yeah. Well, no, I think he's legitimately allergic to horses, which comes up a few times. But he always has a typically low-key celebrity guest, with a few exceptions, but it's just really funny, but also informative and interesting. And we've been now to a number of the places that he went to in the run of that show, and it's nice. Like, it's actually really a helpful show disguised as an unhelpful show, I think. But it's the show that I watch when I just want to watch something funny. Definitely. It was also a pandemic show for us. As far as where to stream it, it's on Roku, you can get this free channel called Journey, and a lot of the episodes.
It's like Journy or something. Like, it's not the way Journey is usually spelled.
There's also some episodes on Amazon Prime. I think some of like the specials in particular on Amazon Prime. So you can look for it. There are lots of clips on YouTube too, including like an extended cut of Paul Rudd and Richard Ayoade in Burger King sauna in Finland, pouring like beer onto the sauna rocks in the Burger King sauna and getting into trouble. It's pretty good.
It looks like some of the episodes are also on Peacock.
Okay. It moves around. This is one of those ones that moves around. And we should mention, too, that any of these could, well, almost any of these could probably move around. Some of them not, but just, you know how to use Google.
Yeah, it's always a good, when you're looking for a little travel inspiration and a laugh, Travelman's a good.
Travelman.
He's a Travelman.
Yeah, in Madeira in particular, I found myself quoting it a lot.
I've never gone so fast in Wicked.
Yeah, it's a good episode. I would recommend the Madeira episode as a good starting point.
I love the Hong Kong one.
The Hong Kong one's very good. The Helsinki is the one with Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
I mean, I could basically name almost every one of them. But yeah.
The next show I want to talk about is probably one of my top 5 television shows currently, and that is Expedition Unknown. So it is not a 100% travel. It's got, I guess the plot is that Josh Gates, who is an actor / archaeologist, I don't exactly know. He goes around the world trying to solve these kind of mysteries. He goes looking for gold and shipwrecks.
A lot of the themes are really on brand with sort of things you would expect from History Channel, but it's much fresher than a lot of that kind of stuff. And he really takes exploring and adventuring very seriously and really does things. Like, it's not just him standing in front of a screen talking about stuff, or like stuff is happening.
There's a lot of really cool World War II history episodes where they're looking for lost planes. He does quite a few. He's a few of them he's gone to the Great Lakes region and
those are my favorites.
Yeah, looked for mysteries around here, which is pretty cool. What was the airplane? Northwest. There was a Northwest plane that crashed in the 1940s in Michigan. That was a really cool mystery that he was looking for that I had never heard of. He didn't find it. But yeah, it's just, if you're interested in, the world and history, a lot of American history, yeah, it's a great show. And it is currently streaming on Discovery Plus. I believe if you are still a cable television watcher, you can catch it on Discovery Channel. But yeah, that's one of my favorite television shows, and we have seen Josh Gates live twice.
Another one that I want to mention is also one on Discovery Plus. We're not sponsored by Discovery Plus, but this one is also on there. We discovered this last year. It's Jose Andres and his family in Spain. This is just a short little season, maybe 6 episodes. And Jose Andres, if you don't know who he is, he was a chef. He worked at a famous restaurant near Barcelona called El Bulli. And then he came to America and is often credited with bringing the tapas concept from Spain to America. It's lots of restaurants here in the U.S. Jaleo, Bizarre Meats, a bunch of other ones. But he's now famous for having World Central Kitchen, which is a humanitarian organization that provides food to people in places where there is a shortage of food. And anyway, really interesting guy, but he made this show with his daughters, just going around Spain, and I think they go to about 6 destinations in Spain. And he has a very fun on-camera personality and is very enthusiastic, and is just a fun person to give you a tour of Spain as he's taking his daughters around Spain. Really fun.
He takes his daughters to some destinations that, especially us as Americans, I don't think we think of when we think of Spain.
Definitely not.
I feel like a lot of Americans, when they think of Spain, think of Barcelona. Madrid, and that's
maybe Madrid.
Right, that's about it. So it really inspired some of our desire to return to Spain, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of places I want to go.
The next one I want to talk about, we only recently discovered it, and that is The Reluctant Traveler with Eugene Levy. It is streaming on Apple TV+. You might know Eugene Levy. He was in American Pie. More recently, he was on a show with his son, Schitt's Creek.
And his daughter.
Oh, you're right. And his daughter, too. Yeah. So very funny comedic actor. And he starts off the show by saying, I don't really understand why I need to travel. It sounds like he is a well-traveled person, but he claims that he really never wanted to leave the 5-star resort to see the places. And so it's one, I don't know how true that is.
It seems to melt away pretty quickly.
Yes, especially, I think we just finished, is it season 3? Or were there only 2?
Whichever the last season was, he was not reluctant any longer.
No, I don't think so. Probably one of the coolest things about that show are the places that he stays. So a lot of these places, or a lot of these shows that we've mentioned, they don't really talk about the accommodations. But one of the hallmarks of this show is that he stays in these amazing, sometimes probably 4- and 5-star resorts. And they're just gorgeous. And in places that you wouldn't think, like in the desert of Utah, this really cool architectural marvel that blends in with the red rocks. And it's really cool. And you see him getting up close and personal with some wildlife that he's afraid of in Costa Rica or in South Africa. Yeah. But then there was an episode in Venice. And so he goes everywhere, and it's like Travel Man, but maybe the humor is toned down a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little more serious than Travel Man. And he's definitely like, the things he's doing in those places are much more expensive and custom to him and all that. Richard Ayoade and some random celebrity are basically like doing whatever any tourist can do.
And like for as cheap as possible. But yeah, so that's a good one. Yeah, we recommend Reluctant Traveler. So another one that is probably in my top 5 television shows currently is Somebody Feed Phil, which is on Netflix, starring Phil Rosenthal, who is the creator of Everybody Loves Raymond.
He pitched it like, it's like Anthony Bourdain if he was afraid of everything. That was how he pitched it. I don't know. I mean, which actually I think in concept is similar to The Reluctant Traveler. It's a food-centric show rather than, it's like a travel food show, whereas Reluctant Traveler is broader than that. But I don't know if he is really as afraid of everything. Definitely Eugene Levy projects that a little bit more than Phil is just so enthusiastic and like happy that it doesn't come off the same way. Don't get me wrong, like it's fun. It's really fun.
And he has this amazing outlook, like how even though you can be really far away, like we're all the same kind of a thing.
What we've heard Phil say both on the show and in person when we've seen him is that people are rarely as bad as their governments. And that's a phrase that he says. And I think maybe in some ways it can be an oversimplification, but he definitely shows that point over and over again, that people from all places can get along. And he often talks about food as a gateway to culture, much in the same way that Rick Steves will talk about art as a gateway to culture. I think Phil's a little bit more fun. I love art, but But yeah, it's a great one. It's heartwarming. You get to see the amazing food from all around the world. And he will pretty much try anything. I think the only time he said, "Oh, no, thank you." There was like,
it was the iguana and then the live.
It was some kind of a grub or something that was moving. No, it was scarier than crickets. It was like some kind of a grubby thing. It was like, I think it was just like insects. I think it was just a bunch of live insects. That was what it was.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Highly recommend Somebody Feed Phil. It's got a little, like we mentioned with Eugene Levy and Richard Ayoade, they have comedy backgrounds. So they bring a little levity and a little humor. Phil's facial expressions are amazing.
Yeah.
And I live here now. We say that a lot.
It also has a great theme song.
Oh, yes. Yes, the theme song by Lake Street Dive, which is one of Chris's favorite bands.
Okay, I think it's time for a wine break. We're here for the wine break, and we have something special today, I would say. This is Bosco de Medici. I don't know how to say this in Italian. It looks like lava flava. Or maybe lava flava. No.
It's flava flav's wine.
I'm sure that there's an Italian inflection way to pronounce it. But this is a white wine. Lacrima Christi is from this the DOC of Vesuvio, or Vesuvius. And we have not tried this yet. So let's do something different. What are you expecting this to taste like?
Vesuvius kind of implies that it's volcanic soil, so it's going to have that like minerality that comes with volcanic soil.
All right, let's try it. I agree.
It's very fruity on the nose, if you will.
Yeah. It's got some acid, for sure. Yeah, acidic. It's actually not as much minerality as I expected. But yeah, I mean, it's dry. Pretty good. So you picked this wine out. You want to tell the people why you picked it out? Yeah, we bought this at Gilberto's in Bologna. And I believe you picked it out because we had heard about Vesuvian wine and
When we were in Naples.
when we were in Naples. And we didn't buy any when we were in Naples. So we picked up this bottle when we were getting our last few bottles in Bologna.
Does it have some saltiness?
Maybe. I was wondering if it would. I'm not getting it, I don't think, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's there. You might be tasting it.
It's drying out my tongue a little.
Yeah. So this wine is typically made from, oh boy, Verdecha and Coda di Volpe grapes, I'm going to guess. And then there's some others too. But yeah, it was just a wine that we actually brought back from Italy. And we're trying it now.
It's possible that I chose it because of the Medici.
The Medici name, yeah. Which is interesting because you don't necessarily think of them in relationship to Campania and that part of Italy. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty good Italian wine.
pretty good Baba Flava.
Baba Flava.
All right, we're back talking about some of our favorite travel television. And I want to talk about Jack Whitehall Travels with My Father. So this is another comedian doing a travel show. There's a theme here. I guess if it's a very serious person, it might not be super interesting. I don't know. Jack Whitehall is a British comedian. And the first season, he took his dad, who he always says that he has an old dad. I want to say his dad was like in his mid 70s in the first season. And so they went to Southeast Asia to start, which was very interesting. So they start in Thailand and end up in Vietnam for an old stuffy British man.
Yeah.
There's some new experiences.
My favorite, I don't know about an all-time favorite, but one of my favorite moments in that season is when he asks for lamb Welsh if you've got it somewhere in like Thailand or somewhere. Look at him like, yeah, no.
And what's the name of the train?
Was it the Orient Express?
Express?
I think it's the Orient Express.
And he thinks that the
was
steward's name is Stewart.
Yeah.
And Jack says, does he look like a steward to you? So it's just, it's good comedy. Good to see interesting places. Season 2, they are in Europe and they do Germany, Budapest, Romania. For some reason, they go to Chernobyl.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That one, Jack Whitehall's father, Michael, is really excited to go to Transylvania because he knows that it was then Prince, now King Charles's like favorite vacation spot. And they go there and it's like Transylvania, which is like this really remote wildernessy kind of area now. And he's like, I don't get the appeal. It's really funny.
Season 3, they do an RV trip in the U.S. I think
Yeah.
LA to Arizona.
Yeah, they go to Vegas, right?
Yeah.
And then Jack Whitehall's mom shows up.
Yes. Season 4 is in Australia. And season 5, I think it was like a COVID time, they are around the UK. So it's funny and it opens your eyes to some different destinations. There's always a little bit of hijinks.
Yeah. It's definitely a show that is drummed up. And they're totally like, they acknowledge that. It's not like it's fake, but they definitely plan out how to heighten the tension and
Right.
like it's for the cameras, but it's fun.
And that is streaming on Netflix if you are interested. After watching this, I got into Jack Whitehall's comedy too,
Yeah.
which is he has a few stand-up shows on Netflix too.
Yeah. The next one I'll talk about is one that we just watched very recently. It's Eva Longoria, Searching for Mexico. It's part of there's also a Stanley Tucci, Searching for Italy, it's the same like family of programs here.
Yeah, it's produced from CNN, I believe.
Yeah. And this is Eva Longoria, who's someone who grew up in Texas, but whose family is of Mexican origin, going to these different places in Mexico and just learning about them as an interested and connected tourist, and also as a celebrity, because people definitely treat her like a celebrity too. Like there's no getting around that. But as someone who really aspires to see more of Mexico, and as someone who, I guess I'll say, I feel strongly about Mexico as an important neighbor to us and as a relationship that we should take seriously and as a culture we should respect. That it was just really nice to see these different. She went to Mexico City, which we've talked about in other podcasts. She went to Oaxaca, which we talked about, including on this podcast. But then she also went to, I think, Veracruz. She went to
Yucatan.
She went to Jalisco, and they like grilled a bunch of meat, which is always fun for me to watch. And yeah, just it shows you really what an incredibly special culture exists in Mexico. And as a tourist, it definitely makes me want to visit more of those places. And it's so close. Like,
Right.
I feel like, we should go.
And it definitely opened my eyes to parts of Mexico that a lot of these other shows
They
didn't show. Nuevo Leon and
Right.
Veracruz, not to mention Jalisco.
Yeah, I feel like Mexico City gets a lot of play. Yucatan gets some play, the resorts especially. Baja, of course. But yeah, there are other parts that are, as far as like safety goes too, like Mexico is a complex topic when you talk about safety, but like you can go to many of these places, and as long as you're smart, there's really nothing to worry about. There are some parts of Mexico that really you should avoid, at least in the current moment that we're in, but many other places to go to besides the beach resorts in Yucatan and Baja, Cabo, whatever. Yeah.
It's like somebody feed Phil. I didn't realize how food focused Eva Longoria was going to be.
It was very food focused.
Yeah, it's just, especially as such a skinny person, I didn't expect her to be so into this.
She didn't eat for 2 months before filming. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good one.
It's a little long, I will
Yeah.
say. Consider maybe watching each episode in 2 sittings. Like,
Right.
It's
It's definitely not a show that you're going to binge.
Yeah. It's got a lot of segments.
Yes.
But very interesting. And it's well shot, too. Like, it's very visually appealing.
Yes. And she wears really nice outfits, too.
Oh, yeah. I was referring more to the landscape. But
And that is currently streaming on Discovery Plus, along with the Stanley Tucci one. And they are working on another season. She's not going to be in Mexico, but she's going to trace her roots through Spain, which will be interesting.
yeah.
If we do this episode again in a few years.
Yes.
All right. The next show I want to talk about is Men in Kilts.
This is a good one.
Another one with some comedy. I don't think they have a comedy background, but it's starring Graham McTavish and Sam Hugan, who are two of the main characters in the Outlander series. It is streaming on Starz, so it's working on the Outlander fame. But the first season, they dig into what there is to see in Scotland and its history. And I think we actually mentioned this show when we were talking about Scotland.
That's
and
right.
how Graham's
The caravan
ancestral home is now a caravan park. But it's like Travels with My Father. There's some hijinks going on between the two of them. And yeah, you can tell that they have a love of Scotland.
Yeah.
And yeah, it made me really want to go to Scotland. It just seems like such a beautiful place. Season 2 is in New Zealand, which is a place that I didn't really know a lot about. I don't want to say that I don't want to go there, because I will never say that I don't want to go anywhere,
Yeah.
but it wasn't high up on my list.
No, we should go.
And it seems like a very beautiful place. And it seems like a place that a lot of Scottish people settled, which is interesting.
Yeah.
They traced the Scottish roots in New Zealand.
Plus, we might run into Britt McKenzie or Jermaine Clement. As featured on one of the last episodes.
Yeah, the last episode, the Disney one, or 2 episodes ago. Yeah, the Disney one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is streaming on Starz, the same place where you can watch Outlander. Maybe they'll do a season 3 where they come to the US and trace the Scottish sites. That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be cool.
Because we know if you are into the Outlander universe,
Lots of people are.
after it was illegal, after Culloden, the Scottish culture came to the US.
And now everyone claims to be Scottish.
Yeah. Yeah. I've learned that people in Scotland don't like it when Americans tell people they're Scottish. Even if you have Scottish ancestry, they don't like it.
Yeah, your great-grandfather should have stayed. You jerk.
Dealt with the persecution like the rest of us.
Yeah. Another one I'll mention are the various shows that were made in the 10, 20 years ago by Anthony Bourdain. There are a few different series. I'm sure you're aware of. There's Parts Unknown, there's No Reservations, and then he's done some other things too. I think that these are really significant works in that he, not only does he go to a lot of places, but he was doing this in the early 2000s, maybe even the late 90s. I don't know when he really started, but it was definitely a generation ahead of a lot of these other shows that we're talking about. In fact, pretty much all of them. I have to say, and I think Ashleigh agrees, it's not usually my favorite show to watch. He's kind of the opposite of Phil, right? Whereas Phil is like inexperienced and excited. Anthony Bourdain's super experienced and a little jaded and a little dark. Yeah. And it's his shtick. Like, he's trying to be funny a lot of the times. It's not like he's just actually like that all the time. As people, I think, that have really positive travel outlooks, it can be a drag sometimes. Yeah. That said, it's very comprehensive and it's very interesting. And he's done several shows on places that not a lot of other people go, like Puerto Rico, still to this day. Mm-hmm. Like when we first started getting into traveling to Puerto Rico, there were not a lot of shows to watch. And still now there aren't. And he had several. Mm-hmm. So really good, definitely worth watching. It's Anthony Bourdain. He was a complex person, definitely.
Yeah. A little dark, a little depressed. The one in Argentina.
The Buenos Aires one, so fun fact about Buenos Aires, it has more psychiatrists per capita than like anywhere else in the world. And so he has these sort of like funny therapy sessions throughout, but like it's not so funny. Like, it's kind of dark.
Especially when you know that he dies not long after recording that. So it's just a little hard.
But still, definitely, if you were to make like a catalog of significant travel show work, his work for sure should be there. And it's important to watch.
Yeah. And those are streaming. The three that you mentioned, and No Reservations, Parts Unknown, and The Layover are all streaming on Discovery Plus. Some of the more recent ones are on Amazon Prime, and you have to pay per episode or by the season. But yeah, they're not available included in any streaming plans. All right, another one we want to talk about is another interesting character. Yeah. And this is Gordon Ramsay. Most people know him from Hell's Kitchen. I've never watched Hell's Kitchen or any of those. No. But I discovered Gordon Ramsay Uncharted. Does he have a Puerto Rico episode?
Yeah, he does have. He goes to Culebra.
Okay, obviously I knew of Gordon Ramsay ahead of time.
Who doesn't?
And he shows up in an episode of Travels with My Father.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't make Michael Whitehall's Welsh lamb right or something like that. But anyway, Uncharted is an interesting concept because he goes to these places and he gets to know these places by finding the ingredients that they're known for. And then he has a challenge with a local chef. So we enjoyed the one about Lisbon, Puerto Rico, like we mentioned, and he even has one in the UP, which is interesting.
Yeah, they like forage and stuff.
Yeah, he goes foraging for mushrooms, and there were places in the UP that he went in that show that I feel like we know the UP pretty well, and I was not aware of the jam that's made by monks. Yeah, or like that was pretty cool. Like I want to go there now.
This is the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. If you haven't picked up on UP yet.
Oh yes, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Using my slang, my Michigander slang.
Yeah. I have to say his personality is more tolerable on this show than on a lot of his other works. I must confess, I'm not really a Gordon Ramsay fan. And I know that some of it, I'm sure, is who he really is, and some of it is probably dialed up for the cameras. I understand that. And I know that actually a lot of people really love his work. And that's great. You can do that, but it's just not really for me. But there are a lot of other things in this show that I really enjoy, and I appreciate how it's put together. I liked a lot of the places he's gone. It's been very interesting.
Gordon Ramsay Uncharted is available to stream currently on Hulu. Caught me off guard there. They don't have many travel shows on Hulu. Yeah. So the last one we wanted to talk about is another kind of iconic hours and hours of travel footage, and that is Rick Steves' Europe.
Yeah. Rick Steves is clearly like a great guy and has done amazing work in his career, but I'll be nice and just say it's not bingeable. Right. And he's not trying to make something bingeable, so that's okay.
Mm-hmm. But if you're looking for a comprehensive guide to a certain city in Europe, you have to watch the Rick Steves Europe episode, at least the most recent one, maybe not all of them. Yeah. If you want to hear him talk about the passeggiata in Italy, watch all of his episodes.
The man loves the passeggiata, which is, if you're not aware, see, here I am, I'm spreading this thing. In certain European countries, there's a tradition of kind of in the early evening taking a walk in a known place where like everyone else takes this walk. And traditionally, it was a way of showing off. especially like if you wanted to escort your lady around. It's become, I think, a little bit more egalitarian than that in these days and more sort of community and family focused. But in Spanish-speaking places, they call it a paseo. In Italy, they call it a passeggiata, and he loves the passeggiata and is always talking about it. And if you watch any of his Italy episodes, you'll see him walk the passeggiata with his backpack or with his sweater, looking around. Rick Steves is who Rick Steves is. I mean, good for him for like doing that. But
he is the authority on Europe for Americans.
Yeah.
So
he's built a whole career that way.
Yeah, he's made a lot of money that way.
And his work has been very useful to us in a lot of cases as we've traveled to Europe a couple of times now. We should also mention, like Samantha Brown, because he owns his own work that gets sent to PBS, a lot of his, pretty much everything he's done is available for free on his website, all the videos and all that, and YouTube. Yeah.
If you're interested in art, he does have, I think it's a 4-part series called The Art of Europe that goes through the history of art, starting in prehistory up to modern street art. Like you mentioned, you're probably going to want to watch half of an episode at a time, and then come back to it another day.
Yeah.
Especially the first episode.
It's very dense with information, and it's interesting, but it's a lot to take in sometimes.
Yeah. And of course, I'm sure there are lots more that we haven't seen. I know Conan O'Brien has one that we've never seen because we don't have Max. Zac Efron has a travel show.
We saw him milk a goat in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we mentioned the Stanley Tucci. Yeah. Oh, there's
the James May one.
Yeah, Your Man in Italy. So there's definitely a lot more than we mentioned. We just wanted to mention our favorites and then the big iconic ones.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Go watch Travel Man. That's the only one you need to know.
I don't know. I have to put Expedition Unknown in there too.
Yeah.
For the last segment of this episode, we want to talk about this weekend that we just spent in West Michigan.
Yes.
We decided to stay in Ludington, which is one of our favorite cities in West Michigan, like Midwest Michigan, really. On Lake Michigan, back when we were doing our Michigan bucket list, we talked a little bit about Ludington, but we stayed at this kind of cool little motel called the Summers Inn in Ludington.
Really cool.
Really cool. I was a little skeptical. I think you were a little skeptical too.
It's been a while since we've stayed anywhere non-Disney that like we had an exterior door. Not to brag, but we used to do that more. We don't do that so much these days. But
no. And Ludington and really all of West Michigan is safe. So I don't feel uncomfortable with that. But this is an independent little motel. Honestly, we pulled up. I wondered if they had turned like somebody's sprawling ranch home.
It looks like a house.
Into a motel.
Like it's the shape of a motel, but it looks like a house.
Yeah, it's brick-sided. And it was honestly, we got, I think, the last room they had available for the night. And so I didn't do a ton of research because there wasn't a ton available. And I was like, oh, this place looks cool. It's rated well. We'll book it. And when we checked in, he was telling us, if you go down by the American flag and go in, there's a room there that's the library. And then you go through that, there's this nice little kind of outdoor patio area. And it was such a cool little area. Like, I wish we had time to hang out there. There was a koi pond and a waterfall. We wanted to record this podcast there, but we were too tired.
Yeah.
And then when we checked in, he asked us for our breakfast order. We ordered, and we showed up this morning, and we sat down, and they delivered a nice hot breakfast. I was impressed.
It was really good. And the rooms were small, at least the one we were in. It was small but comfortable. It was clean, nice. The air conditioning worked.
The air conditioning cranked, that's for sure.
Yeah. We had stopped at Grand Rapids on the way up, and we both had recently read an article in Eater mentioning some Grand Rapids restaurants and other things. And Grand Rapids has a great food scene. I think we've mentioned this on our Michigan bucket list, but there were some places that were new to us. So we stopped at one called Basalt, which is like a Tex-Mex diner.
Like a brunch diner.
Yeah, it was really good. Everything we had was really great. I had something that they called it whole limeade. And so I don't know exactly how they make it, but there was definitely some amount of lime rind blended into the limeade, and it was really good.
Yeah, it had a little bit more bitter characteristic.
Yeah.
And it was definitely not as sweet as a lemonade or a limeade could be.
Yeah, I really liked it. Lots of good food there. And then we stopped at our favorite olive oil shop to stock up.
Yes. The Old World Olive Company. If you're in the Grand Rapids area.
Or Plymouth. There's one in Plymouth too.
Yeah, it's a great place. If you like fine niche ingredients, I think they would make really good gifts too.
Yeah, yeah. And then we also went to one of my favorite places to go, in a place that we haven't been since 2019, which is Ironfish Distillery. It's, I think, in Copemish, or it's near Thompsonville.
I think the address is Thompsonville.
Is the address Thompsonville? Anyway, it's close to Michigan. It's close to 115. It's close to US 31. It's very near Crystal Mountain Ski Resort.
It's like between Manistee and Traverse City.
Yeah, that's fairly accurate. Ironfish is incredibly unique. They're a distillery, of course, which is not that unique. They make spirits, they make bourbon, they make rye, they make gin, they make vodka, they make some other stuff. But what is unique is in north central Michigan, they are growing grains and making spirits from those grains. It's like the concept of an estate winery, but with spirits, which is, I think, super rare pretty much anywhere. Most of the spirits world, as you probably know, is owned by these massive conglomerates. And even the ones that aren't, a lot of times people are not growing their own grain. It's certainly not the only one in the world, but it's very rare. And their products are really good too. Like their Michigan Woodland gin in particular is really good. It's a great gin. It's similar to a classic London dry gin, but it tastes like Michigan. Like the herbs, the botanicals come from Michigan, and I can't really describe it any other way than like when you taste it, it will remind you of being in the woods in Michigan. The smells of the woods in Michigan are in that glass. And they have lots of other great products too. We were there for some live music too, which was really fun.
They offer tours of the distillery, but then as you mentioned, they also have like a patio where you can get drinks and some food and watch some live music, hang out around a campfire. Yeah, it's a really cool place, and it's been a long time since we've been there. So
yeah.
And I think if you are someone that's visiting Michigan, like you mentioned that, what's the gin called?
Michigan Woodland Gin. You can get it in Meyer.
Oh, I think that would be a great souvenir because like you said, it tastes like Michigan.
It tastes like Michigan.
Yeah, it's a cool place to check out if you're on the west side of the state, the west central.
If you're a skier and you go to Crystal Mountain, this is a no-brainer. Like it's really close. Today after breakfast, we also did one of our favorite things to do in Ludington, which is walk to the Big Saba Lighthouse. It's in Ludington State Park, which is Michigan's largest state park in the Lower Peninsula. Huge state park, lots of trails, lots of campgrounds. It's the busiest state park in the Lower Peninsula as well. But there's a walk to the lighthouse that's almost 2 miles each way, but it's on a dirt road, basically, like a single lane dirt road for lighthouse access. And it's a really fun walk in between the dunes and with the ponds and the little scrubby jack pine trees.
Yeah. This morning, the weather was not great. It was cloudy. There was a chance of rain. And as the trail kind of takes you through one of the campgrounds, you see everybody packing up to leave. And so I think we saw maybe 2 groups walking on the way out to the lighthouse. When we were there was nobody else there. And then on the way back, we maybe passed another 2 groups out to the lighthouse. We had it to ourselves today, which was nice to just sit and enjoy the view of Lake Michigan without other people around.
Yeah.
Now, on a Saturday when it's nice and sunny, it's a lot busier than that.
Totally. Still a really nice place to visit, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And we also visited Stearns Park Beach, which is the beach in downtown Ludington. Unlike the state park, there's no entrance fee. And somehow yesterday it was green flag, beautiful day for swimming, and today it was crazy windy red flag. Lake Michigan is unpredictable like that. And after we walked to the lighthouse, we did something that we have never done before, and that's why I wanted to talk about this on the podcast. We went down south from Ludington to, I believe, is Hart the
Yeah, Hart and Mears are both close.
But it's Silver Lake State Park is a big ORV destination, off-road vehicle destination in Michigan and West Michigan. It's massive amount of sand dunes where people can drive their own off-road vehicle, whether that's your Jeep or your dune buggy or your ATV, whatever it is. You can drive it on the dunes, and we don't have a vehicle for that. I drive a Kia Soul.
Yeah, the Outback might be able to do some of that.
So we've never been able to take advantage of that part of the park. There is a pedestrian dune that you can walk over, and it's beautiful. See Silver Lake and then over the dune to Lake Michigan. It's a gorgeous area. For those of you that don't have an off-road vehicle, there is Mack Woods Dune Rides.
And so this is like an F-350 truck that they've converted and put 4 benches in and taken the roof off. And they have their own section of the park. They have their own kind of track through the dunes that's different from the public ORV track. And they take you around for 45 minutes.
And it was not that expensive. It was $25 a person.
It was way cheaper than I thought it was going to be for something like that. Yeah, 45 minutes getting driven around through dunes. I thought for sure it would be $50 a person or something like that, but no.
And our driver told us about some of the local flora and fauna, some of the history of the area, and then we got a little time to walk around on the beach and take some pictures. Obviously, there's not enough time if you wanted to go swimming. This is not the tour for that.
It was also not the day to go swimming.
No, I think you would have frozen and maybe been ripped in half.
Pulled out to sea.
Next stop, London.
Yeah. No, I can't recommend that enough, though. And I want to do it again.
Yeah, it was really a lot of fun. If you are in the area, definitely make a stop at Mack Woods. And then from there, we headed home and we stopped in Grand Rapids again for lunch at one of our favorite restaurants, which is Blue Water Grill. It's outside of Grand Rapids, not far from Meyer Gardens, if you've ever been there. The architecture of the restaurant blends into the surroundings. I think we drive past it probably every other time we go there.
Yeah. It's like really Frank Lloyd Wright-y.
Yeah.
Like it's of that style.
Yeah, and the colors match the trees around it. It is on a little kind of private lake.
Yeah. I think it's like it's a flooding of the Grand River, actually.
Oh,
yeah, I think so. Close to Cannonsburg, the ski place.
But yeah, it's a great place to have some really good food. If you are familiar with Grand Rapids, this is a Gilmore Collection restaurant, so they've got different restaurants around Grand Rapids that are all really good. And you get a view of this little lake while you eat. Yeah. Unfortunately, the deck wasn't open, I think, because it had been raining on and off all day. Yeah. So that was our little short weekend in West Michigan. We had fun, and we recommend a visit for sure.
Yeah, all of those places.
Yeah.
That's all for today's episode of Go, See, Do, Explore. Thank you for joining us and sharing in the wonder of travel.
Keep the spirit of today's adventure alive by checking out our blog at goseedoexplore.com for even more travel inspiration.
Don't forget to rate and review us wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really helps fellow travelers find us and join our community.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and keep traveling by any means necessary.
I'm Christopher.
And I'm Ashleigh, bidding you farewell and happy exploring.